I need to tell someone what I did, and you're going to think I'm terrible, but there's something about watching someone you love fail that nobody wants to admit. When Marcus called me from his car that Tuesday afternoon, voice shaking, telling me he'd just been laid off, I laughed. Not a sympathetic chuckle or nervous giggle. A full, genuine laugh that came from somewhere deep in my chest before I could stop it. The silence on the other end of that call still haunts me. Babe, did you just laugh? He asked. I tried to recover. No, there was something on TV. I'm so sorry, that's awful. Come home and we'll talk about it. But he'd heard it. We both knew what had happened. Here's what nobody understands about that moment. I'd been waiting for something like this for 3 years. Not hopping for it exactly, but bracing for it. Expecting it. And when it finally happened, there was this rush of vindication that felt almost like relief. Like I'd been proven right about something I didn't even know I was keeping score about. If I don't tell this whole story, you'll never understand why I ended up alone in a studio apartment eating takeout on the floor while Marcus is now living a life I can barely stand to look at on social media. But once you know what I know, once you understand what was really happening in my head during those years, you'll see why I made the choices I did. You might not forgive me, but you'll get it. This isn't just about one laugh at the worst possible moment. It's about the insecurity I'd been carrying since the day we met, the fear that I was always going to be the weak link, the one dragging us down. And when he lost that job, for just a second, I wasn't the failure anymore. I'm going to tell you everything, including what I said to my sister that night and what I did when Marcus started interviewing for new positions. And the part that makes me look worst. That's toward the end, because you need to understand how we got there first. You need to see how someone who genuinely loved another person could systematically destroy the best thing in their life. We met at a company holiday party 5 years ago. I was a junior marketing coordinator at a mid-sized tech firm, and Marcus worked in sales at a startup 2 floors down in our building. He was charming in that easy way some people have, where they make you feel like you're the only person in the room even when you're surrounded by 100 drunk coworkers wearing Santa hats. I was never that person. I was the one who had to rehearse small talk in the bathroom mirror, who kept a mental list of conversation topics in case of awkward silences, who felt like every social interaction was a test I was barely passing. Marcus didn't just like me, he pursued me. He texted first. He suggested our second date before our first one was even over. He introduced me to his friends within a month. For someone who'd spent most of her 20s convinced she was forgettable, this was intoxicating. But here's the thing they don't tell you about dating someone confident and successful: it feels amazing until it doesn't. Until you start comparing. Until every one of his wins reminds you of your own stagnation. 6 months into our relationship, Marcus closed a deal that earned him a $30,000 commission. We celebrated at an expensive restaurant where I pretended not to notice that the bonus alone was more than I made in half a year. He was so happy, so genuinely excited, and I smiled and raised my glass and felt something ugly twist in my stomach. You're going to get there too, he said, squeezing my hand across the table. Your boss would be insane not to promote you soon. But my boss didn't promote me, not that year, not the next. I watched younger hires leapfrog over me. I sat through performance reviews where I got praised for being reliable and steady, words that felt like polite codes for mediocre. Marcus, meanwhile, kept rising. New title, corner office, company car. He never rubbed it in, never made me feel small on purpose. That almost made it worse. His success was just this natural thing, like breathing, while I was grinding myself down to bone trying to move up one rung on a ladder that seemed to grow taller every time I looked up. Just when I thought I'd made peace with our different trajectories, his startup got acquired. Marcus's stock options turned into real money. Not billionaire money, but enough that he could have quit working entirely if he'd wanted to. He was 32 years old, and he'd basically won capitalism. We'd been living together for a year at that point. I came home from another soul-crushing day of work to find him on the couch, grinning, holding a bottle of champagne. It went through, he said. The acquisition closed today. I knew what that meant. We talked about the numbers before. Oh my God, I said, and I hugged him, and I meant it. I was happy for him. I was also calculating how long it would take me to save what he'd just made in a single day, and the number was something like 40 years. That night he wanted to talk about our future. Marriage, maybe buying a house, kids in a few years. We could do it now, he said. We could actually start our lives. Our lives, like what we'd been living, didn't count. Like my careful budgeting and his windfalls were somehow a team effort. I'm not ready yet, I told him. Let's just enjoy this for a while. What I meant was I'm not ready to be the wife who didn't contribute to the down payment. I'm not ready to be the financial passenger in my own life. Marcus stayed at his job even after the acquisition. He liked the work, he said, liked feeling useful. I think part of him knew that without the structure, without the validation of being good at something, he'd lose his sense of purpose. I understood that better than he knew. Meanwhile, I was still stuck at my same job, watching Marcus's former colleagues pop up on LinkedIn with their fancy new titles at bigger companies, leveraging their acquisitions into even better opportunities. And Marcus would tell me about their successes like they were friends, like he was genuinely happy for them because he was a good person who didn't keep score. I kept score. My sister Rachel knew something was wrong before I did. Met for lunch about 2 years into my relationship with Marcus, and she ordered wine even though it was noon on a Wednesday. You seem tired, she said. Work's been busy. That's not what I mean. She had that look, the one that meant she was about to say something I didn't want to hear. You seem tired of yourself. Rachel had this way of cutting through bullshit. She was a therapist, which made her either the best or worst person to confide in depending on the day. I'm fine, I said. How's Marcus? He's great, everything's great. And that's the problem. I stabbed at my salad. What's that supposed to mean? You're dating someone whose life is going exactly the way he planned and you're stuck, and instead of that motivating you, it's making you smaller. I'm not, you are, she leaned forward. I've watched you shrink yourself for 2 years. You used to have opinions, plans, now you just orbit around his life and resent him for having one. I should have been angry, but instead I felt exposed. Seen in a way that made me want to crawl under the table. I don't resent him, I said quietly. Not yet, Rachel said, but you will if you don't figure out what you actually want. I didn't figure out what I wanted. I just kept going to work, coming home, existing alongside Marcus while feeling like I was watching his life through a window I couldn't quite reach. Then his company started having problems. It was small stuff at first, delayed payments, a product launch that flopped. Some bad press about workplace culture. Marcus would come home stressed, actually worried for the first time since I'd known him. And I hate admitting this, but those nights were when I felt closest to him. When he was vulnerable and uncertain, I could be the strong one, the supportive partner, the person with wisdom to offer. Maybe it's a sign, I said one night while he paced our living room. Maybe it's time to try something new. I don't want to abandon ship when things get rough, he said. That's not who I am. Who he was, apparently, was someone loyal and principled. Meanwhile, I'd been mentally checking out of my own job for months, doing the bare minimum, already halfway out the door in my head. The problems at his company got worse. There were layoffs, small ones first, then bigger ones. Marcus started working longer hours, trying to save accounts, keep clients from jumping ship. He'd come home exhausted, and I'd rub his shoulders and make dinner and feel needed in a way I hadn't in years. I thought I was being supportive. Looking back, I think part of me was feeding off his crisis. It leveled the playing field between us, made us both uncertain instead of just me. When he called me that Tuesday afternoon, I was actually having a decent day. I'd gotten assigned to a new project, nothing major, but it was something. I was feeling almost optimistic for once. They let me go, Marcus said, and his voice had this quality I'd never heard before. Hello, they're restructuring the whole division, I'm out. And I laughed, God, I laughed, even now I can't fully explain it. Relief that my insecurity had been justified, schadenfreude, some twisted satisfaction that he was finally experiencing what failure felt like, all of it, none of it. The silence after my laugh lasted maybe 3 seconds, but it stretched out like hours. I'll be home soon, he said and hung up. I sat there holding my phone, realizing what I'd just done. I tried to convince myself it wasn't that bad, it was just a nervous reaction. He was upset and not thinking clearly. He probably didn't even register it. But when Marcus came through the door 2 hours later, the way he looked at me, I knew he'd registered it just fine. I'm so sorry, I said, rushing to him. About the phone, I didn't mean. It's fine, he said, but his voice was flat. It's not fine, I don't know why I reacted that way, I was just surprised. He set his box of desk belongings on the counter. Can we not do this right now? So we didn't. We ordered pizza. We sat on opposite ends of the couch. We pretended everything was normal while something fundamental had cracked between us. That night after Marcus went to bed early, I called Rachel. He got laid off, I told her. Oh no, how's he doing? I laughed when he told me. The pause on her end was deafening. Please tell me you're joking, she finally said. It just came out, I don't know why, it was like this reflex. Jesus Christ, what did he say? Nothing, that's almost worse, he's being so calm about everything. Rachel sighed, that disappointed sound she usually reserved for her clients' worst decisions. You know what this is about, right? I'm a terrible person. You're someone who's been feeling inadequate for so long that his failure feels like your success. And that's not love, that's keeping score in a game nobody else knows you're playing. I wanted to argue with her, but I couldn't. She was right, she was always right. What do? I asked. You support him, you apologize, you figure out why you needed him to fail, and you deal with that, preferably with a therapist. I did apologize. The next morning over coffee, I told Marcus I was sorry for my reaction, that I'd been in shock, that I was there for him, whatever he needed. I know, he said, thank you. But something had shifted. There was a distance in his eyes that wasn't there before. Over the next week, Marcus threw himself into job hunting with the same intensity he'd brought to everything else in his life. He updated his resume, reached out to his network, started taking calls with recruiters. His confidence hadn't been shattered by the layoff, if anything, he seemed energized by the challenge. And that same ugly feeling in my gut came back, stronger than before. He was going to be fine. Of course he was going to be fine. People like Marcus always landed on their feet. He'd probably end up somewhere better, making more money, getting a better title. The layoff wasn't going to humble him or change him. It was just going to be another story he told at dinner parties about overcoming adversity. Meanwhile, what was I doing? Same job, same dead-end prospects, same person I'd been for 5 years. I started making comments, small ones at first. Maybe you should take some time off before jumping into something new, I'd suggest. You've been working so hard for so long. I can't afford to take time off, he'd say. I need to keep the momentum going. You have savings, you could take a few months, figure out what you really want. I know what I want to work. What I was really saying was stay down here with me for a while, don't climb back up so fast, let me catch up. He had a phone interview with a company in Seattle. A great company, probably better than where he'd been. After the call, he was buzzing with excitement. I think it went really well, he said. They want me to fly out for an in-person next week. Seattle's so far, I said. It's a 3-hour flight. I mean to relocate if it came to that. He looked at me carefully. We'd relocate together if it came to that. I have a job here. You hate your job here. I never said that. You don't have to, I can tell. Just when I thought I was managing my resentment, he had to go and be perceptive, understanding, willing to include me in his plans even though I'd laughed at his lowest moment. I don't want to move to Seattle, I said. Okay, he said, then I'll focus on local opportunities. That should have made me feel better. It didn't. Now I was the anchor holding him back from a better life. The girlfriend who couldn't get her shit together enough to be portable. Marcus had 3 interviews lined up in the next 2 weeks. I'd see him getting ready in the morning, putting on his good suit, practicing his talking points. He'd ask me to quiz him on common interview questions. I'd do it, but I'd also point out flaws in his answers. That story about the client retention is too long, I'd say. You'll lose their attention. You think, definitely, and the thing about team leadership sounds kind of arrogant. How should I phrase it instead? I don't know, less braggy. I was sabotaging him, not in any dramatic way, just little cuts, little seeds of doubt. I told myself I was helping him prepare, being honest where others would blow smoke. Really, I was trying to drag him down to where I was. Everyone online thought I was being so supportive. I'd post pictures of us together, caption them with stuff like "so proud of this one, best is yet to come." I'd get dozens of likes, comments about what a great couple we were. Privately, I was falling apart. Rachel called to check in. How's Marcus doing with the job hunt? Great, too great. He's got final round interviews at 2 places. And you sound thrilled about that. I am. Try again, but this time with feeling. I sat down on our bed, looking at Marcus's interview suit hanging on the closet door. What if he gets something amazing and I'm still stuck? What if the gap between us gets so big we can't even see each other anymore? Then you'd better start working on your own life instead of undermining his. I'm not. You are, I know you. You're doing that thing where you get so scared of being left behind that you try to slow everyone else down. It didn't work when we were kids and it won't work now. She was talking about when she got accepted to college and I didn't. When I told her the school wasn't even that good, that she was making a mistake, that she should stay home and go to community college with me. She went anyway, obviously. She saw through my fear and went anyway. He's going to leave me behind, I whispered. Not if you keep up, but if you keep trying to trip him, he's going to leave you behind on purpose. Marcus got a job offer, not just any offer, a director position at a company I'd actually heard of, with a salary that made my stomach drop when he told me the number. This is it, he said, grinning wider than I'd seen in months. This is the one, I'm taking it. Congratulations, I said, and I hugged him, and I felt like I was hugging someone who was already halfway out the door. We went out to celebrate. Expensive restaurant, his choice since he was flush with severance pay and about to be employed again. He ordered champagne. He held my hand across the table. He talked about our future again, marriage, house, kids, all the things he'd wanted before. I was thinking, he said, maybe with this new salary you could finally quit your job. Take some time to figure out what you really want to do. I could support us both while you figure it out. The offer was generous, it was kind, it was exactly what someone who loved me would suggest, and it made me want to throw my drink in his face. I don't need you to support me, I said. I know you don't need it, I'm saying I want you to be happy. I am happy. You're not, you haven't been happy in years. The truth of that hung between us like smoke. I'll figure it out, I said, on my own. Something flickered across his face, hurt maybe or resignation. Okay, he said, whatever you want. We finished dinner in near silence. The champagne tasted like ashes. Marcus started his new job 2 weeks later. He'd come home energized, talking about projects and team dynamics and strategy. He was good at this. He was in his element. And I was still going to my same office, doing my same tasks, feeling like I was watching life happen to other people through thick glass. I thought I was hiding my resentment, but it was leaking out in small ways. I'd forget to ask about his day. I'd change the subject when he talked about work. I'd make passive-aggressive comments about how late he was working, how little time we spent together anymore, how his success was coming at the expense of our relationship. You're the one pulling away, he said one night after I'd snapped at him for missing dinner. I'm right here, I've always been right here. You're here physically, I shot back, but you're living in a completely different world than me. So come with me, God, I've been trying to bring you with me for years, I don't know what else to do. Maybe there's nothing you can do, maybe some people are just meant to be successful and some people aren't. He stared at me. Is that really what you think? That you're not meant to be successful? Look at the evidence. The evidence is that you're too scared to try, you're so terrified of failing that you won't even reach for anything, and now you're punishing me for not being scared with you. I wanted to argue, I wanted to tell him he was wrong, that he didn't understand, but he understood perfectly, that was the problem. I can't do this anymore, I said quietly. Can't do what? This, us, watch you succeed while I'm just here. Marcus went very still. Are you breaking up with me? I hadn't planned to, the words had just come out, but now that they were there hanging in the air between us they felt inevitable. I think I need space, I said. Space to what? To feel sorry for yourself, to blame me for your problems? To figure out who I am when I'm not comparing myself to you every second of every day. He laughed, but it was bitter, nothing like his usual laugh. That's rich, you know what's funny? When I got laid off I was actually scared. For the first time in years I didn't know what was going to happen. And you laughed, you actually laughed. I've been trying to forget about that, trying to convince myself it didn't mean what I knew it meant. But it did, didn't it? I apologized for that. You apologized for the action, not for the feeling behind it. You were happy I failed, and when I didn't stay failed when I got back up, you resented that even more. Tears were running down my face now. I didn't want to feel this way. But you did, you do. He stood up, grabbed his keys. I'm going to stay at a friend's place tonight. You should think about whether you actually want space or if you want me to fail enough that you can feel good about yourself. Because I love you, but I'm not going to make myself smaller so you can feel bigger. He left. I sat on our couch in the apartment we'd shared for 3 years and felt the weight of what I'd just done. I called Rachel. I think I just ended things with Marcus, I told her. Oh honey. He said I was punishing him for being successful. He said I was happy when he got laid off. Were you? The question hung there. I could lie, I could make excuses, but what was the point? Yeah, I whispered. I was, not because I wanted him to suffer, but because for just a minute we were the same. We were both uncertain and scared. And then he got back up so fast and I was alone down there again. You were never down there, Rachel said. That's what you don't get. You put yourself there, you decided you were failing, and then you made that your whole identity. And anyone who didn't fail with you became the enemy. So what do I do now? You let him go and you figure out how to build a life you don't resent. Marcus came back the next day to get some clothes. We were painfully polite to each other. He took his things. He said he'd be back for the rest later. He didn't fight for us. He didn't try to change my mind. Part of me wanted him to. Part of me wanted him to say he couldn't live without me, that he'd quit his fancy job, that we'd figure it out together. But he didn't. Because he knew the same thing I knew. I was the problem, not his success, not the gap between us, me, my insecurity, my scorekeeping, my need to pull him down instead of building myself up. He moved out completely 2 weeks later. We divided our stuff with the efficiency of people who just wanted it to be over. He was kind about it. Let me keep things I wanted even when they were technically his. Didn't make it harder than it had to be. I really did love you, he said when he was loading the last box into his car. I know, I said, I loved you too, but not enough to be happy for me. I didn't have an answer for that. I spent the next 6 months in a fog. I moved to a smaller apartment I could afford on my own. I went to work, I came home. I scrolled through social media and saw Marcus's life continuing without me. He looked happy. He was traveling, going to events, meeting new people. Meanwhile, I was eating takeout on the floor because I hadn't bothered to buy a table yet. I finally started seeing a therapist. Not because I wanted to, but because Rachel threatened to stop talking to me if I didn't. The therapist was this older woman named Dr. Chen who didn't take any of my shit. Why are you here? She asked in our first session. My boyfriend left me. Ex-boyfriend, and that's not why you're here. Why are you really here? I don't know how to be okay with myself. Good, she said, that's a start. We spent months unpacking my issues. The way I tied my worth to achievement. The way I compared myself to everyone around me. The way I'd rather tear others down than build myself up. It was brutal, it was necessary. What do you actually want? Dr. Chen asked me one day. I want to matter. You already matter, what do you want to do? That was harder. I'd spent so long defining myself by what I wasn't accomplishing that I'd forgot to think about what I actually wanted to accomplish. I started small. I took an online course in digital marketing, then another. I updated my resume. I started applying to jobs I actually wanted instead of just staying where I was because it was familiar. It took 4 months, but I got an offer. Better company, better pay, actually using my brain instead of just filling space. On my first day I thought about texting Marcus, telling him I'd finally done something, that I'd finally moved forward. I didn't, because it wasn't about him anymore. It couldn't be. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't check his social media sometimes. And that's where I saw her. Marcus had a new girlfriend. She was beautiful, successful, worked in tech leadership. They met at some industry conference. They looked happy together in every photo, genuinely happy, not performatively happy like I used to be. And the thing that killed me, She looked like someone who celebrated his success instead of resenting it, who matched his energy instead of trying to diminish it. I stared at those photos for an hour, feeling everything I'd been trying to process in therapy come flooding back. The inadequacy, the jealousy, the self-loathing. Then I closed the app and didn't open it again for a month. Dr. Chen said that was progress. I've been at my new job for 8 months now. I'm good at it. I got assigned to lead a major campaign last month. My boss said she sees management potential in me. These things would have meant the world to me a year ago. Now they just feel like things that are happening. I went on a few dates, nothing serious. Mostly I just tried to figure out who I was when I wasn't defining myself in relation to someone else's success. Then 3 weeks ago I ran into Marcus. I was at a coffee shop near my new office and there he was standing in line. My heart jumped into my throat. I thought about leaving before he saw me, but then he turned and our eyes met and it was too late. "Hey," he said. "Hey." We got our coffee and sat down together, even though I'm sure we both had places to be. It was awkward at first, that specific discomfort of talking to someone who used to know you better than anyone. "You look good," he said. "Thanks, you too. I heard you got a new job, congrats." Of course he heard. We still had mutual friends, mutual social circles. "Thanks, I heard you. Yeah, congrats to you too." He knew I meant the girlfriend. "Sarah, she's great." "I'm glad." We sat in silence for a moment, sipping our coffee. "I've been wanting to reach out," Marcus said, "to see how you're doing, but I wasn't sure if you want to hear from me. I wouldn't have a few months ago." I looked at him, really looked at him. "But I think I would now." "Therapy? How'd you know?" "Rachel told me. She said you were doing the work." The idea of them talking about me should have been embarrassing, but instead it felt like relief. Like I wasn't alone in trying to figure this out. "I'm sorry," I said, "for all of it, for laughing when you got laid off, for resenting your success, for being so stuck in my own head that I couldn't just be happy for you." Marcus nodded slowly. "I'm sorry too, for not seeing how much you were struggling, for making you feel like you had to keep up with me when that was never what I wanted. It wasn't about what you wanted, it was about what I thought I needed to be worth loving. You were always worth loving, you just didn't believe it." My eyes burned with tears. "I'm working on that." "Good." We finished our coffee. We hugged goodbye. He smelled the same cologne, same detergent. It made my chest ache with everything we'd been and everything we'd never be again. As I watched him walk away, I felt something unexpected, genuine happiness that he was okay. That he'd found someone who could celebrate his life instead of compete with it. That he'd left me behind not out of cruelty, but out of self-preservation. He got a better job. He got a better life. He got better, period. And I laughed at his worst moment, tried to sabotage his recovery and pushed him away when he succeeded anyway. Here's the worst truth, the one I've been avoiding this whole time. I knew what I was doing. Every passive-aggressive comment, every seed of doubt I planted, every time I chose resentment over support, I knew. Some part of me, the part I'm still learning to face in therapy, wanted him to stay down, wanted him to fail. Not forever, maybe, but long enough that I could feel superior. Long enough that I could be the strong one, the successful one, the one with something to offer. I was so scared of being left behind that I tried to break his legs instead of learning to run. And the thing nobody wants to hear, the thing that makes this whole confession so much worse, part of me still wants to be the victim in this story. Part of me still wants to believe that his success was the problem, that the gap between us was inevitable, that I'm justified in my bitterness. But I'm not. I was the villain in this story, not him, me. Dr. Chen says recognizing that is the first step. That awareness is the foundation of change. That I can't build something new if I'm still clinging to the narrative where I'm the wronged party. Most days I believe her. Some days I'm still eating takeout on the floor of my apartment, stalking my ex's social media, feeling that familiar twist of resentment when I see him happy. But those days are getting fewer, and the space between them is getting wider. I tell myself that's progress, that healing isn't linear, that I'm doing better than I was, and maybe someday I'll be someone who can celebrate other people's success without measuring it against my own. Someone who builds up instead of tears down. Someone worth loving not because of what I've achieved but because of who I am. I'm not there yet, but I'm trying, and I guess that's all I can do. The story I told myself for so long was that Marcus left me behind, but the truth, the real truth, is that I left myself behind years ago and I've been blaming everyone else for not staying back there with me. He got a better job. He built a better life. He became a better person. And I laughed, I sabotaged, I burned it all down. That's what I need to live with. That's what I'm learning to face. That's the confession that changes everything.